Hi, it's Diana. I found my copy of Joy Harjo's book that includes the poem Perhaps the World Ends Here. And guess where I found it? On my desk. Well, not exactly on my desk, but on the books. Getting caught on my chair. On the books right above my desk. You know, where I wouldn't miss it. So here I am with the analysis portion of the poem, as I mentioned, Joy Harjo's Perhaps the World Ends Here, at the intersection of literature and food. And our food in her poem is coffee. And last time I had this question. So my overarching question for this poem is, why is the only specific food mentioned is coffee? Why is that? So I'm thinking about that. I am going to do what I forgot to do last time when I looked at the poem, and that is describe the poem. So, okay, and that's it on the page. There's a lot of white space. There's a lot of different. There are a lot of stanzas. They're very short stanzas. They're 1 to 3 lines each. There's one 3-line stanza. There are 11 stanzas. And guess where the 3-line stanza hits? Right in the middle. In my head, it's in the middle. It's different than all the others. Perhaps that's a very important stanza. I don't want to say it's more important, but let me just pay attention to that stanza. That's what I think when I look at how this poem is. And before I read that stanza, I want to talk about the language. And the language in the poem is what I call accessible. I don't really, I'm trying to think, have to pull out a dictionary. I feel pretty comfortable with this language. So the middle stanza is, our dreams drink coffee with us as they put their arms around our children. They laugh with us at our poor falling down selves, and as we put ourselves back together once again at the table. It's the coffee stanza. That's me, feeling all satisfied with myself because I picked coffee, and there it is right in the middle of the poem. The pronoun used here is we. So it is first person plural. It's and I'm going to say this, and this is just my word. It's inclusive. It's not just I and me. It's we. It's all of us. It's whoever we happens to be. And for me, when I read the poem and it says we, I feel like the speaker or the author, not the same, is pulling me in. Like we're in this together. This is an experience that we share. We share this. No matter what, first line, we must eat to live. And what if I read this, I'm like, hey, you don't speak for me. You don't include me, Joy Harjo. Well, the first thing that I'm included in is eating. We must eat to live. Very hard to argue with that. Okay, Joy Harjo, you got me. I have to eat to live too, so I'm with you. No matter what, we must eat to live. So I'm in this with other things that are included in this poem that I'm like, yeah, you're right. It says we chase chickens or dogs away from it. I never had chickens, but I had dogs, have dogs, and I did chase them. Okay, I've gotten lenient in my old age. I did chase them away from the table. Babies teethe at the corner. Thinking, yeah, sure, babies teething at the table, teething on the table. Yeah, I've seen that. One of the ones that really gets me is this table has been a house in the rain, an umbrella in the sun. Like, okay, do I have an outside table that I sat under because it was raining? No, we didn't do that. I didn't do that. But did I make forts or clubs or houses or some sort of imagination under the table when I was a kid? Yeah, I absolutely did that. Sounds fun. So yeah, sure, why not? A house in the rain, umbrella in the sun, even if it was just imaginary, not just, even if it was imaginary, did this. There are other things, and I've like skipped to the end, that like this one that says, we have given birth on this table and have prepared our parents for burial here. Now again, this could be very literal. Lying on a table and giving birth. Okay, I actually gave birth at my house. Both my kids were home births with a midwife. I was not on top of the table, so no. And my parents, I have now prepared both of my parents for burial, but neither of them were on the kitchen table. However, if I don't think of this literally, if I think about what does it mean to give birth at this table? One, does it have to be a child? Do I have to be birthing a child? No, I can give birth to, what she mentions is dreams right above it. I can give birth to a dream, to a business idea, to a creative endeavor. And then if it is a child, I certainly sat at the table talking about the plans for when the baby arrived. Give birth at the table. That could be, to me, that makes sense. Also, prepared our parents for burial here. This one's going to catch me because it just happened. We absolutely sat around a table. One, at the funeral home making plans, and so it wasn't the kitchen table, but then we went home and we talked about, at my parents' kitchen table, talked about the funeral, wrote the obituary, wrote eulogies, looked at pictures for slideshows. We did memories. We did all that. So, and I would say we weren't just preparing our parents for burial. We picked out clothing, all the stuff. We didn't just prepare our parents for burial. Just like we didn't prepare the baby for the birth. We prepared ourselves for that. When she says we, when I think of playing under the table or around the table or making forts at the table, like that makes me happy. Like, oh yeah, that was fun. Oh, and then when I think of like the burial, like, oh yeah, that was heavy. That was hard. That still hurts. So it's not just the, oh, I have to, well, we start with, yeah, okay, I have to eat. And then it go on like, oh yeah, happy. Oh yeah, heavy. And I'm with you, speaker or poet. I'm with you. I'm okay with being included in the we. This works. So all of that, and haven't mentioned the coffee really yet. One thing I want to say before I get to the coffee is there are like almost eatings going on, like at the beginning, which says we must eat to live. Okay, so there's a mention of we got to do this thing. It's not described, it's just we got to do it. And then there are other mentions of food, but not specific food. The second one says the gifts of the earth are brought and prepared, set on the table. Gifts of the earth. Love that. Teething. It includes the mouth and the teeth and chewing, but not exactly eating. And then we get to our dreams drinking coffee. So there's actual drinking. And we could, I thought, well, the dreams are drinking, so it's not exactly eating. But then it's the dreams drink coffee with us. We're actually drinking the coffee. Last phrase, eating of the last sweet bite. So there are pieces of eating, and then there's the actual drinking of the coffee, but a lot more gets done at the table. Okay, and I also want to say it begins, perhaps the world ends here. We know we're going to the end. That's the title. And the first sentence is the world begins at the kitchen table. And then we get all the things that happen. And then the last sentence is the title again. Perhaps the world will end at the kitchen table. So what is coffee? It's the only food mentioned. So what does that bring? When the reader sees the word coffee, what does that bring in? It could be an illusion. It's not like a history. So it could be symbolic. Let's call it symbolic. So the symbol brings all this stuff with it. It brings a literal warm cup of smoke. Oh, it's not warm anymore, but a warm mug of a beverage with an aroma. It has an aroma, it has a feel, it might be in a favorite mug. So it has a physicality. It brings real stuff. And then it has a taste. And think about all the other things that, for me, what is coffee? And I talked about this a little bit. So this brings, our dreams are sharing with us something physical, an actual drink. They're sharing a gathering, it's culture, it's family, it's ritual, it's home, it's warmth, it's comfort, it's like communication. It could even like closeness, like we're gonna lean in and talk over. Tell me more. I can't believe it. What else happened? That idea that coffee is part of a community activity, community of family, community of larger community, goes with the pronoun we, which is inclusive. And with the dreams, they're putting their arms around us. They're like shasha. This we call when in my where I grew up shasha. It's really share dear, but anyway, shasha. It's okay. Shasha. That's the amount. That I'm the dream. This is the person. Shasha. Just patting them. You're okay. It'll be okay. Even if it's not okay, you know what? I'm here. Is coffee the only food she could have used? No. I think there are others, but coffee goes beyond one culture. There are many. Like I can say, well, I come from a French part of Louisiana, and in this French American culture, coffee is important, which is true. It doesn't make it less important that in others. And I'm not saying, what I'm saying is coffee goes beyond one culture. So it's, again, inclusive. I guess the real question is, how do I interact with this poem when the only food mentioned is coffee? And my answer is, it reiterates what I see as the communal aspects of this poem, the pronoun we, the fact that what is chosen, we must eat to live. Right? Yeah, it's hard to argue with that. So again, communal, everybody's like this. And then these parts of life that we also all pretty much go through. We go through birth, we go through death. We have dreams. Again, everybody that is the answer that I come up with. That is what coffee brings to Joy Harjo's poem, Perhaps the World Ends Here. My favorite poet, I'm not crying because she's my favorite poet. And that makes me happy. And one of my favorite poems of my favorite poet. Sometimes it happens. A teary episode of looking at the intersection of food and literature. And now to something not so teary, which is what I'm going to look at next. I think I'm going to go ahead and do Dracula. I read Dracula. By the time we finish with it, Halloween will be over. And so, but it's kind of thing. Anyway, but I'm going to do Dracula next. We'll talk about this story.